Captain Alara Voss stared at the holographic projection hovering above the command deck of the Imperial flagship Indomitable. The anomalous signal pulsed in regular intervals, originating from the edge of a backwater system the Empire had classified as Sector 2318, or as the primitive inhabitants called it, the Solar System. Analysis, Captain Voss? Admiral Cor Valen's voice cut through the hushed murmurs of the bridge crew. The Admiral was tall even for his Centauri, towering over Alara by nearly half a meter, his silver-blue skin shimmering under the ambient lighting. Alara straightened her uniform, the black and gold of Imperial Science Division standing out among the crimson of the command staff. The signal doesn't match any known Imperial or Allied communications protocol, Admiral. It appears to be coming from just beyond the orbit of the sixth planet in the system. The primitives? Valen raised an eyebrow ridge, his tone dismissive. I thought Earth was classified as Level 2. They've barely managed interplanetary travel. That's correct, sir. According to our last survey, Earth civilization had established rudimentary colonies on their fourth planet and several mining outposts on their larger moons. Their propulsion systems were still chemical-based, with experimental ion drives for intersystem travel. Valen made a sound somewhere between amusement and contempt. Then it's likely one of their primitive probes malfunctioning. Hardly worth our attention. With respect, Admiral, Alara said, highlighting a specific frequency pattern in the hologram. This signal contains perfectly structured quantum entangled particles. That's well beyond Level 2 technological capabilities. The Admiral's expression hardened. The Empire had existed for 10 millennia, expanding across thousands of star systems, cataloging and categorizing countless species and civilizations. The meticulous classification system was the backbone of Imperial expansion strategy. Level 1 civilizations were pre-industrial, Level 2 were early spacefaring, Level 3 had achieved interstellar travel, and so on. Each level determined the Empire's approach: observation, subtle guidance, or direct incorporation. Perhaps we've been negligent in our monitoring, Valen said. How long since our last comprehensive survey of Earth? Alara consulted her data tablet. 53 standard years, sir. 53 years. Valen's voice rose slightly. And no scout ships have reported any significant advancement. The automated monitoring satellites haven't flagged any notable technological leaps, Alara confirmed, which makes this signal all the more puzzling. Set course for the origin point. Valen ordered the navigation officer. Standard approach, defensive posture. Captain Voss, prepare a full spectral analysis team. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with before we reach visual range. As the Indomitable and its escort of 3 light cruisers altered course, Alara couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. The Empire prided itself on its perfect information, its flawless intelligence network that spanned the galaxy. Yet somehow, something had slipped through the cracks in a system believed to be thoroughly understood and categorized. The journey took less than an hour through hyperspace. When they emerged at the coordinates of the mysterious signal, the command deck fell silent. What in the 7 hells is that? Admiral, Valen whispered. Before them, silhouetted against the gas giant's swirling storms, floated a vessel unlike any Earth ship documented in Imperial records. It was long and sleek, with a distinctive hammerhead prow and twin propulsion arrays that glowed with a soft blue light. Most striking was its size, at least 500 meters from bow to stern, far larger than anything the Empire believed humans capable of constructing in space. Scans indicate metallic alloy hull, composition unknown, reported the sensor officer. No energy shields detected. Minimal heat signature. Multiple apertures that could be weapons ports, but nothing actively powered. Open a communication channel, Valen ordered. Standard Imperial First Contact Protocol. The communications officer worked at his console. Channel open, sir. Valen stepped forward, his posture straightening to achieve maximum impressive effect. This is Admiral Cor Valen of the Imperial Navy, commanding the flagship Indomitable. You have entered space monitored by the Galactic Empire. Identify yourself and state your purpose. The response was immediate, coming through in perfect Imperial Standard, another surprise. This is Captain Reese Carter of the HSS Audacity, Earth Interplanetary Defense Force. We are conducting routine patrols within our sovereign territory. We acknowledge your presence, Admiral Valen, and welcome you to the solar system. Alara observed the Admiral's jaw tighten at the calm, measured response. Earth was not recognized as a sovereign power. By the Empire, it was a developing world under distant observation, nothing more. Captain Carter, Valen replied, his voice taking on a condescending tone he reserved for lesser species. I believe there's some confusion. Earth is a Level 2 civilization under Imperial classification. Your vessel's technology appears inconsistent with our records. Please explain this discrepancy. A brief pause. Then, Admiral, with respect, we do not recognize your classification system nor any authority it might imply. The Earth and its surrounding space are independent territory. As for technological discrepancies, perhaps your records require updating. Valen's expression darkened. He gestured for the communication to be muted. Arrogance, he spat. Typical of primitive species when they achieve their first significant technological advancement. He turned to the weapons officer. Power up the forward disruptors. Low yield, targeting precision. I want to demonstrate our capabilities without destroying their vessel completely. Sir, Alara interjected, standard protocol for first contact situations recommends diplomatic engagement before. This is not first contact, Captain Voss. Valen cut her off. Earth has been in our records for centuries. This is merely a correction of inappropriate behavior from a species that has forgotten its place. Alara bit her tongue. As a science officer, she had no authority to countermand military decisions, even ones she found short-sighted. Sir, the sensor officer called out, I'm detecting unusual readings from the Earth vessel. There's some kind of interference when our scanning beams make contact with their hull. Elaborate, Valen demanded. It's as if our sensors are being absorbed rather than reflected. I can't get accurate readings on their internal structure or power systems. Alara moved to the sensor station, examining the raw data herself. This isn't any known stealth technology, she said, frowning. It's almost as if the energy from our scans is being redirected somehow. Resume communication. Valen ordered, his voice hard. When the channel reopened, the Admiral didn't waste time on pleasantries. Earth vessel, your technology exceeds the documented capabilities of your civilization. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Compliance is mandatory. The human captain's voice remained infuriatingly calm. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Admiral. We have no obligation to submit to inspection by foreign powers. We are, however, authorized to establish diplomatic channels if you wish to negotiate formal relations between our peoples. Negotiate. Valen's laugh was sharp. The Empire does not negotiate with Level 2 civilizations. Your choices are simple: compliance or consequence. We understand the choices you've presented, Captain Carter replied. We decline both and offer a third option: mutual respect and recognition. We'll transmit our diplomatic protocols on a separate frequency for your consideration. Valen signaled for communications to be cut. His face was flushed with a deep azure, a sign of intense anger in Zentari physiology. Weapon status? He barked. Forward disruptors charged at 15%, sir. Targeting solutions acquired. Fire a warning shot. 10 meters off their port bow. The Indomitable's primary weapon unleashed a brilliant beam of energy that streaked past the Earth vessel's hull, dissipating harmlessly in the void beyond. No reaction from the target, sir, reported the tactical officer. No change in their power signatures, no defensive measures activated. Sir, Alara interrupted, studying a new set of readings, I'm detecting an unusual gravitational distortion around their vessel. It wasn't there before we fired. Before Valen could respond, the communications officer announced, incoming transmission from the Earth vessel. Put it through, Valen growled. Admiral Valen. Captain Carter's voice was still measured but carried a new edge of warning. We interpret your actions as hostile. We request you cease immediately. While we have no desire for conflict, We are fully capable of defending ourselves. Valen's laughter echoed across the command deck. Defending yourselves? Against an Imperial battlecruiser with 3 escort vessels? Your bravado is misplaced, Captain. Now, I will offer one final opportunity for cooperation before we disable your vessel and bring it into our hangar bay by force. That would be unwise, Admiral, Carter replied simply. Valen cut the communication again and turned to his tactical officer. Target their propulsion systems. 20% power. Disable, don't destroy. The Indomitable fired again, this time directly at the blue glowing engines of the Audacity. But something unexpected happened. As the energy beam approached the Earth vessel, it appeared to bend, curving around the ship before continuing into space. Its intensity diminished. What just happened? Valen demanded, leaning forward in shock. Unknown, sir, the tactical officer stammered. The beam. It was deflected somehow. Impossible, Valen whispered. Increase power to 50% and fire again. The second shot was more powerful, but the result was the same. The destructive energy warped around the Earth vessel, as if sliding off an invisible shield. Sir, Elara said, her voice tight with concentration as she analyzed the readings. They're not using energy shields as we understand them. This is something else entirely. The space around their ship is being distorted, creating a gravitational lens effect. Gravitational weapons are theoretical, Valen snapped. No species has successfully weaponized gravitational fields. With respect, Admiral, the evidence suggests otherwise, Elara replied, gesturing to the untouched Earth vessel floating serenely against the backdrop of stars. The communications officer interrupted again. Sir, the Earth ship is transmitting something. It looks like technical specifications. They say it's offered in the spirit of scientific exchange. Put on screen, Elara requested before Valen could object. The holographic display filled with schematics and technical data. Alara's eyes widened as she began to parse the information. She paused, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Admiral, they're not using energy-based defensive systems at all. They've developed a method of manipulating gravity fields to create a space-time distortion around their hull. Our energy weapons are being redirected through curved space. Preposterous, Valen dismissed. Even our most advanced research divisions haven't perfected such technology. That's just it, sir, Elara continued, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. They haven't followed our technological development path at all. Their entire approach is fundamentally different. While we've focused on energy manipulation, they've pursued mass and gravitational engineering. Valen's expression shifted from disbelief to calculating interest. If this is true, Captain Voss, the strategic implications are significant. Sir, the tactical officer interrupted. The Earth vessel is changing position. On the main view screen, the Audacity was indeed moving, rotating slightly to present its broadside to the Imperial formation. Defensive posture? Valen questioned. No, sir, the tactical officer replied. I believe they're bringing weapons to bear. What weapons? Valen scoffed. Our scans detected no energy weapon signatures. Because they don't use energy weapons, Elara realized aloud, studying the schematics the humans had shared. According to this, they utilize kinetic projectiles accelerated to near light speed. Primitive projectile weapons? Valen laughed. Our shields are designed to withstand energy bombardment thousands of times more powerful than... He never finished the sentence. A series of flashes erupted from ports along the Audacity's hull. An instant later, alarms blared across the Indomitable's command deck. Impact. Multiple impacts across all 3 escort vessels, the tactical officer shouted. Shield integrity compromised. Impossible, Valen breathed, watching in horror as one of his escort cruisers began to list, its lights flickering. How could physical projectiles penetrate our energy shields? They're not just physical projectiles, Elara explained, fingers flying across her console as she analyzed the attack. They're specially designed kinetic penetrators moving at 99.8% of light speed. They're carrying so much energy through their velocity that they're punching through the shields like they're not even there. Return fire, all weapons. Valen ordered, his composure cracking. The Indomitable unleashed its full arsenal, lighting up space with destructive energy. Yet each shot curved harmlessly around the Audacity, deflected by the gravitational distortion field surrounding it. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "incoming transmission from the Earth's ship." "Ignore it," Valen snarled. "Admiral," Elara said firmly, "we've lost 2 escort vessels already. Their systems are completely disabled. We should at least hear what they have to say." Valen hesitated, then nodded tersely. "Put it through, Admiral Valen." Captain Carter's voice was remarkably calm, given the circumstances. "We've disabled your escort vessels with targeted, non-lethal strikes. Their life support systems remain functional, but their weapons, propulsion, and communications are offline. This demonstration was restrained. I urge you to reconsider your approach." Valen's hands gripped the command console so tightly that Elara feared he might snap it in two. "You dare to attack Imperial vessels? This is an act of war against the Galactic Empire. The consequences will be severe. Not an attack, Admiral. A defensive response to your aggression," Carter replied. "And not war, unless you choose to make it so. We would prefer peaceful relations, but we will not be subjugated. Your primitive world stands alone against an empire spanning thousands of worlds. This defiance is futile," Valen said, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "Are you certain we stand alone, Admiral?" There was a new note in Carter's voice, something almost like amusement. "The Audacity is merely one of 12 completed vessels in our initial defensive fleet, and I would caution against attempting to locate our shipyards or manufacturing centers. We've placed hundreds of decoy reactor signatures throughout our system and beyond." Elara watched Valen's face carefully. The Admiral was proud, but not foolish. The implications were clear. If one Earth vessel could neutralize 3 Imperial cruisers in seconds, 12 such ships could pose a serious threat to any reasonable military engagement. "Captain Voss," Valen said quietly, turning away from the communications pickup, "verify his claim. Are there other vessels of this type in the system?" Elara consulted the long-range sensors. "I'm detecting multiple energy signatures consistent with the Audacity's profile, sir. At least 11 others in various positions throughout the system, and hundreds of smaller signatures that could be decoys or something else entirely." Valen's shoulders stiffened. He was facing a strategic nightmare, an unknown enemy with unexpected technological capabilities that had just demonstrated tactical superiority. Empire protocol for such situations was clear: strategic withdrawal and reassessment. "Captain Carter," Valen said, choosing his words carefully, "it seems there has been a significant miscalculation regarding Earth's developmental status. I propose a temporary cessation of hostilities while I consult with Imperial Command regarding your unusual situation." "A reasonable suggestion, Admiral," Carter agreed. "We'll maintain our current position and defensive posture. Be advised that any approach within 5,000 kilometers will be considered hostile intent." When the communication ended, Valen turned to Elara, his expression unreadable. "Prepare a comprehensive analysis of everything we've learned about their technology. I want a full report ready when we contact the High Command." "Yes, Admiral," Elara replied, "already compiling the data." "And Captain Voss," Valen added in a lower voice, "your insights regarding their technological divergence may prove valuable during this diplomatic adjustment. I expect your presence during the briefing." Elara nodded, understanding what remained unsaid. Valen was already positioning himself for the political fallout of this encounter. By highlighting her scientific analysis, he could frame the incident as an unexpected discovery rather than a military defeat. As she worked, Elara couldn't help but feel a sense of fascination overriding her loyalty to Imperial doctrine. The humans hadn't simply advanced along the expected technological path. They'd taken an entirely different road, one that the Empire, for all its millennia of accumulated knowledge, had never seriously explored. The implications extended far beyond this single encounter. If one supposedly primitive species could develop such innovative approaches to space travel and warfare, how many other lesser civilizations might be harboring unexpected capabilities? The Empire's entire classification system, the foundation of its expansionist policies, suddenly seemed less reliable than previously believed. And deeper still, a more personal question formed in Alara's mind. What other paths, what other possibilities had the Empire's rigid thinking caused them to overlook? Captain Reese Carter maintained his composed expression until the communication with the Imperial flagship ended. Only then did he allow himself a deep, shaky breath. "Status report," he requested, glancing around at his bridge crew. "Gravitational lens intact and stable," reported his executive officer, Commander Dia Sharma. "Kinetic batteries at 93% capacity. No damage sustained. And the Imperial escorts? Successfully disabled using the precision package as planned. Their life support systems are functioning normally, but weapons, shields, and engines are offline. They'll need tug assistance to return to their flagship." Carter nodded, satisfied. "And our sister ships? All 11 reporting ready status, Captain. The Defiance and Intrepid have moved to supporting positions in case the Imperial vessel decides to escalate further. The rest remain at their designated patrol coordinates." "Good." Carter rose from his command chair and approached the tactical display. The Imperial battlecruiser still loomed large in their sensor feed, its massive form dwarfing the Audacity despite their successful defense. "Maintain alert status. I doubt our Admiral Valen is the type to accept defeat gracefully." "Do you think they'll bring reinforcements?" asked Sharma. "Eventually," Carter replied, studying the Imperial vessel. "But not immediately. Their faster-than-light technology requires significant energy expenditure for each jump. They'll need time to recharge, and Valen will want to consult his superiors before committing additional forces. And when they do return," Carter's expression remained neutral, though his eyes reflected a deeper concern. "Then we'll discover whether our strategic deterrence is sufficient, or if we've merely postponed the inevitable." The communication officer interrupted. "Captain, we're receiving a direct request for a private channel from someone aboard the Imperial vessel. They're identifying themselves as Captain Ilara Voss, Imperial Science Division." Carter raised an eyebrow. "The science officer who was analyzing our systems during the confrontation?" "Yes, sir." Carter considered for a moment. "Patch it through to my ready room. Commander Sharma, you have the bridge." Once inside the privacy of his office, Carter activated the secure communication terminal. The face that appeared belonged to a humanoid female with pale green skin, large golden eyes, and intricate markings along her temples. Characteristic features of the Alzari species, according to Earth's limited xenobiology database. "Captain Carter," she began without preamble, "I apologize for this unorthodox communication. Admiral Valen is unaware that I'm contacting you." "Interesting," Carter replied neutrally. "What can I do for you, Captain Voss?" "First, I want to assure you that this channel is secure. I've routed it through my personal scientific equipment rather than military communications." "A risk for you, surely." Ilara nodded. "Calculated." "Captain, I'm reaching out because I believe there's significant value in genuine scientific exchange between our civilizations, regardless of the political and military complications currently unfolding." Carter studied her carefully. "The Empire has existed for 10,000 years through conquest and assimilation, Captain Voss. Why should I believe your interest is purely scientific?" "Because I've dedicated my life to understanding how the universe works, not to expanding imperial territory," she replied evenly. "The technological approach your species has developed, particularly your gravitational manipulation systems, represents a fundamentally different path than imperial science has pursued. This divergence is fascinating and valuable, I imagine." "Immensely," she admitted. "Just as I suspect our advancements in quantum field manipulation would interest your scientists. Knowledge exchange benefits both parties." Carter leaned back, considering her words. "What exactly are you proposing, Captain Voss?" A direct dialogue between scientific authorities. Unofficial, at least initially. I can provide insights into imperial technological development, and perhaps you could explain the theoretical foundations of your gravitational lens system. Admiral Valen would approve this? A flicker of something, perhaps discomfort, crossed Ilara's features. Admiral Valen is a military commander focused on maintaining imperial dominance. Science is secondary to his concerns. So you're acting independently, Carter concluded. Potentially against the interests of your own government. I'm acting in the interests of knowledge, Ilara countered. Something that transcends political boundaries. Carter allowed himself a small smile. An admirable sentiment, Captain Voss. But you understand my hesitation. This could easily be an intelligence-gathering operation. It could, she acknowledged. And I have no way to prove otherwise. I can only offer this. I've already transmitted to Admiral Valen my analysis of your gravitational technology. I could have withheld key insights or deliberately misinterpreted the data. I did not. Carter tapped his fingers thoughtfully on his desk. What do you think will happen when Valen reports this encounter to your high command? Ilara's expression grew serious. The Empire doesn't respond well to surprise as captain. While I'd like to believe cooler heads will prevail, I suspect they'll dispatch a larger fleet to reassess Earth's threat level. When they discover the full extent of your defensive capabilities, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Both understood the implication. Then perhaps, Carter said carefully, scientific dialogue might pave the way for diplomatic solutions that military confrontation cannot achieve. That is my hope, Ilara agreed. Very well, Captain Voss. I'll consult with our scientific directorate about establishing a secure channel for information exchange. But know this, any attempt to use this channel for military intelligence will result in its immediate termination. Understood, Captain. And thank you. This may prove more important than either of us can currently appreciate. After the communication ended, Carter sat in silence for several minutes, weighing the potential risks and benefits of Ilara's proposal. The woman seemed sincere, but she was still an Imperial officer. Yet if conflict with the Empire was inevitable, any opportunity to gain insight into their technology and thinking could prove invaluable. More than that, though, something about Ilara's genuine scientific curiosity had resonated with him. It was a reminder that even across the vast divides of species, culture, and allegiance, certain fundamental values could create bridges where none seemed possible. He tapped his communication panel. Commander Sharma, please arrange a secure meeting with Dr. Khatri from the Scientific Directorate. It seems we may have found an unexpected ally. Admiral Valen paced the command deck of the Indomitable like a predator in a too-small cage. 20 minutes had passed since his decision to withdraw from direct confrontation with the Earth vessel, and each minute seemed to stretch his patience thinner. Long-range communication status? He demanded. Quantum entanglement network aligned, sir, the communications officer reported. Connection with Imperial High Command established. Valen nodded curtly. Secure the bridge. Essential personnel only. As junior officers filed out, leaving only Valen's most trusted command staff and Captain Voss, the main view screen flickered to life. The stern visage of Grand Admiral Felix, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet, filled the display. Her scaled skin was the deep purple that signified the highest echelons of the Zenthar species, and the multitude of honor marks etched into her facial ridges spoke of centuries of service to the Empire. Admiral Valen. Her voice was like gravel over steel. Your priority communication is most unusual. Explain. Valen straightened to attention. Grand Admiral, I have encountered an anomalous situation in Sector 2318 that requires immediate strategic assessment. The Level 2 civilization designated Earth has demonstrated technological capabilities far beyond their classification. Felix's eyes narrowed. Specifics, Admiral. Their vessel withstood direct energy attacks from the Indomitable and disabled 3 Imperial cruisers within moments using previously undocumented weapons technology. They claim to have 12 such warships operational. Impossible, Felix stated flatly. Level 2 civilizations lack the industrial capacity, scientific knowledge, and resource management to produce such vessels. Nevertheless, it happened, Valen replied. I have comprehensive sensor data confirming these events. With your permission, I'll have Captain Voss provide the scientific analysis. At Felix's nod, Alara stepped forward. Grand Admiral, the Earth vessel employs a fundamentally different technological approach than standard Imperial progression models would predict. While we focused on energy manipulation and quantum field technologies, they've developed advanced gravitational engineering. She activated a holographic display showing the engagement data. Their defensive system isn't an energy shield, but a gravitational lens that bends space-time around their hull. Our weapons fire was redirected through curved space rather than being absorbed or reflected. Similarly, their offensive capabilities rely on kinetic projectiles accelerated to near-light speed rather than energy weapons. And these projectiles penetrated Imperial shields. Felix's tone was incredulous. Yes, Grand Admiral, our shields are optimized to disperse energy attacks. These projectiles carried so much kinetic energy through their velocity that they essentially overwhelmed the shield's capacity before it could properly respond. Felix was silent for a long moment, digesting this information. You say they claim to have 12 such vessels. According to their captain, yes, Valen confirmed. Our sensors detect multiple energy signatures consistent with this claim, though we cannot verify if all are operational warships or decoys. Assessment of their captain? Professional, composed, and unintimidated by Imperial authority, Valen replied with a hint of distaste. He identified himself as Captain Reese Carter of the HSS. Audacity. And their demands? That's a peculiar part, Grand Admiral, Alara interjected. They've made no demands beyond recognition of their sovereign status and an offer of diplomatic relations on equal terms. Felix's expression remained impassive, but her secondary breathing slits flared slightly, a sign of intense calculation among her species. Admiral Valen, your tactical recommendation? Valen hesitated only briefly. A show of overwhelming force, Grand Admiral. I request a task force of at least 20 capital ships to return to Earth and demonstrate the true power of the Empire. These humans have developed impressive technology, but they are still a single system against our thousands. And if their technology proves effective against 20 ships as it did against 4? The question hung in the air, uncomfortably direct. Then we escalate accordingly, Valen replied stiffly. The Empire cannot allow a Level 2 civilization to challenge us so openly. The precedent would be problematic. Felix turned her gaze to Alara. Captain Voss, your assessment. Alara took a measured breath. From a scientific perspective, Grand Admiral, the humans have demonstrated technological innovation along paths we haven't fully explored. This suggests either remarkable ingenuity or assistance. Assistance. Felix leaned forward. Elaborate. It's unlikely, but not impossible, that Earth has had contact with other spacefaring entities unknown to the Empire. Their technological divergence is significant enough to suggest outside influence. You believe they have allies? Valen asked sharply. I present it only as a possibility that should be considered before committing to military action, Alara replied carefully. What's certain is that their approach to physics and engineering differs fundamentally from our own. This offers both threat and opportunity. Opportunity, Captain Voss? Felix prompted. For knowledge exchange, Grand Admiral, their gravitational manipulation technology could advance our own research by centuries. Similarly, our expertise in quantum fields would likely be valuable to them. Felix was silent again, her gaze shifting between Valen and Alara. Finally, she spoke. Admiral Valen, maintain your position, but take no further aggressive action. I will consult with the Imperial Council regarding this. Development. Captain Voss, prepare a complete technical briefing on the human vessel's capabilities for immediate transmission. There is one more thing, Grand Admiral, Alara said, aware she was potentially overstepping her authority. The human captain mentioned they've scattered hundreds of decoy reactor signatures throughout their system. If we attempt a comprehensive survey, we may waste considerable resources chasing phantoms. Noted Captain. Admiral Valen, you will receive further instructions within 6 hours. Until then, observe and analyze, but do not engage. Felix out. When the communication ended, Valen turned to Alara with barely contained anger. You undermine my tactical recommendation, Captain. I provided scientific context for strategic decision-making, Admiral, Alara replied evenly. As is my duty, your duty is to the Empire and the chain of command, Valen snapped. Not to advocate for knowledge exchange with primitives who have just attacked Imperial vessels. With respect, sir, they attacked after we fired upon them. And understanding their technology serves the Empire's interests regardless of the ultimate strategic decision. Valen stepped closer, using his height to intimidate. I wonder, Captain Voss, where your loyalties truly lie. With the advancement of science at any cost, or with the empire that has funded your research for 2 decades? Alara met his gaze without flinching. I've always believed that those interests aligned, Admiral. Science advances the empire. The empire supports scientific progress. If that alignment has become strained, perhaps the question isn't about my loyalty, but about our collective priorities. Be careful, Captain, Valen warned softly. Such philosophical musings can be misinterpreted in times of crisis. Prepare your technical briefing as ordered. I expect absolute thoroughness and objectivity. Of course, Admiral, Alara replied, her voice neutral despite her racing thoughts. As she left the command deck, Alara felt the weight of her decisions pressing down upon her. She had taken a risk by suggesting alternatives to military action, potentially making herself a target for Valen's anger. Yet the opportunity presented by Earth's technological divergence was too significant to ignore, both scientifically and perhaps personally. For the first time in her career, Alara found herself questioning whether the Empire's standard approach of dominance and assimilation was truly the optimal path forward. The humans had achieved remarkable advancement by exploring different scientific principles than the Empire had prioritized. What other innovations, what other possibilities might exist beyond the rigid structures of Imperial thought? And more immediately, should she reveal her unauthorized communication with Captain Carter? The scientific dialogue she proposed could provide valuable insights, but if discovered, would certainly be viewed as treasonous by Valen. Alara made her decision. She would compile her technical briefing as ordered, complete and objective. But she would also maintain the private channel with Carter. Knowledge, true knowledge, transcended political boundaries. If that made her a traitor in some eyes, so be it. The future of both human and imperial science might depend on it. Aboard the Audacity, Captain Carter convened an emergency meeting with his senior staff and a holographic projection of Earth's Defense Directorate. The initial confrontation had gone according to contingency plans, but everyone understood this was merely the beginning. The Imperial vessel remains at the edge of our defensive perimeter, Carter reported. They've made no further aggressive moves, but have established what appears to be a quantum communication link with their command structure. Defense Director Helena Rodriguez, her holographic form flickering slightly due to the distance between Earth and the Audacity, frowned deeply. Then we should expect reinforcements. The question is when and in what strength. Agreed, Carter nodded. Our initial demonstration was successful, but we should harbor no illusions about the Empire's resources. They can bring hundreds of capital ships if they choose to. Can our gravitational defense systems withstand that level of bombardment? Asked Admiral Wei, the silver-haired head of Earth's naval operations. Commander Sharma, the Audacity's executive officer, responded. The lens system isn't resource-intensive once established, sir. It's a space-time distortion that redirects energy rather than absorbing it. Theoretically, it could withstand sustained bombardment from dozens of vessels simultaneously. Theoretically, Admiral Wei emphasized. This was our first field test against actual enemy fire. A successful one, Carter pointed out. But I share your concern. We should proceed under the assumption that the Empire will analyze their failure and attempt to develop countermeasures. What about our sister ships? Rodriguez asked. Are all 12 vessels fully operational? 11 operational, Director, Carter corrected. The Resolute is still undergoing final calibration of its drive system. The rest are deployed in defensive formation throughout the system as planned. And the decoy network. Carter smiled slightly. Fully functional. We're broadcasting reactor signatures from 347 different locations. If they attempt a comprehensive survey, they'll waste considerable time and resources. A temporary advantage at best, Admiral Way cautioned. Eventually, they'll determine which signatures are genuine, by which time we'll have developed new countermeasures, Sharma interjected confidently. Director Rodriguez leaned forward, her expression grave despite the holographic distortion. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We surprised them once, but the Galactic Empire has existed for millennia through constant expansion. They don't take challenges lightly. I agree, Carter said, which is why I'd like to discuss a potential diplomatic initiative. He hesitated briefly before continuing. I've been contacted directly by Captain Alara Voss, the Imperial Science Officer who analyzed our systems during the confrontation. Admiral Way's eyebrows shot up. Contacted you? For what purpose? She's proposed a scientific dialogue, unofficial and separate from military channels. She seems genuinely interested in our gravitational technology. A trap, Way dismissed immediately. They're fishing for technical details to develop countermeasures. Possibly, Carter acknowledged. But there's another interpretation. Captain Voss may represent a faction within the Empire that favors knowledge exchange over conflict. And you believe this because... Rodriguez asked skeptically. Because she reached out against her commanding officer's knowledge. Because she acknowledged the value of our technological approach rather than dismissing it. And because, pragmatically speaking, scientific collaboration could provide us with insights into Imperial technology that would be valuable regardless of how this situation develops. Admiral Way snorted. You're suggesting we share our technological secrets with the very power threatening to subjugate us? I'm suggesting a controlled exchange of scientific theory, Carter corrected. Basic principles, not engineering specifications. We learn how they manipulate quantum fields. They learn how we manipulate gravity. Both sides gain knowledge while protecting operational details. Director Rodriguez was silent for a moment, considering. It's risky, she finally said, but potentially valuable. Admiral Way, what's your assessment of our military readiness if negotiations fail? Way's expression remained grim. Our 12 ships can defend Earth and the inner system effectively. The outer colonies are more vulnerable. If the Empire brings overwhelming force, casualties would be significant. Then perhaps Captain Carter's scientific channel is worth pursuing, if only to buy time, Rodriguez concluded. Captain, you have authorization to establish this dialogue, but with strict limits on information sharing. Dr. Catry from the Scientific Directorate will oversee the exchange. Nothing sensitive leaves our hands without triple verification. Understood, Director. And Captain, Rodriguez added, her tone hardening, be under no illusions. While you explore this scientific dialogue, we'll be accelerating production of our defensive fleet and reinforcing the outer colonies. Diplomacy is preferable, but we will be ready for the alternative. Carter nodded solemnly. Yes, Director. I share your perspective completely. As the meeting concluded, Commander Sharma approached Carter privately. Do you really think this Imperial scientist can be trusted? Trust isn't relevant, Carter replied. Her interests and ours temporarily align. She wants knowledge. We want time and insight into Imperial technology. Whether she's sincere about preferring cooperation to conflict is secondary to the practical benefits. And if it is a trap, Carter's expression remained resolute. Then we spring it carefully on our terms, while revealing nothing that could truly compromise our defense. Sharma studied her captain thoughtfully. You seem to believe in this Alara Voss. I believe in the universal language of scientific curiosity, Carter corrected. It sometimes transcends even the strongest political loyalties. Let's hope you're right, Sharma said. Because the alternative is war with an empire that spans thousands of worlds. A war, Carter reminded her, that neither side can be certain of winning now that our first encounter has ended in standoff rather than defeat. That uncertainty creates opportunity, Commander. Our job is to seize it. The next 72 hours unfolded in a delicate dance of tension and calculation. The Imperial battlecruiser maintained its position at the edge of Earth's defensive perimeter, neither advancing nor retreating. Scans detected increased activity as they analyzed the confrontation and probed, unsuccessfully, for weaknesses in Earth's defensive network. Meanwhile, beneath this military standoff, a different form of engagement began. Through a secured quantum channel established between the Audacity and Alera's scientific equipment aboard the Indomitable, an unprecedented exchange of theoretical physics took shape. Dr. Anya Khatri, Earth's leading theoretical physicist, led these discussions from the human side. Tall and angular with streaks of silver in her dark hair, Khatri had been instrumental in developing the gravitational manipulation technology that now protected Earth's fleet. Fascinating, she murmured, studying the equations Alera had transmitted. Their approach to quantum field theory is entirely different from ours, yet mathematically elegant. They're manipulating subatomic interactions at a level we've barely theorized. Can you make sense of it? Carter asked, observing from the conference room where Khatri had set up her workstation. Broadly speaking, yes. The foundational physics is universal, but their mathematical framework is, I would almost say, evolved rather than developed. It has the complexity of something refined over thousands of years, which it has been, Carter reminded her. The Empire's technological advancement has been continuous for millennia. Yes, but along a single path, Khatri pointed out. That's what makes our exchange so valuable to both sides. We've taken an entirely different evolutionary branch in our technological development. While they mastered energy manipulation, we focused on mass and gravity. And you're comfortable sharing our gravitational lens principles with them? Khatri smiled wryly. I'm sharing the basic theoretical framework, Captain. The difference between understanding the principles of gravitational lensing and actually building a functional system is like the difference between understanding how combustion works and constructing a fusion reactor. Carter nodded, relieved. And what are we gaining in return? Insights into quantum field manipulation that would have taken us centuries to develop independently. Their understanding of subspace interactions is particularly advanced. This could revolutionize our communications technology, potentially even our faster-than-light travel methods. So the exchange benefits both sides. Enormously, Khatri confirmed. Though I suspect Captain Voss may be taking a significant personal risk by sharing this information. The rigid hierarchy she's described in the Empire doesn't seem to encourage independent scientific collaboration. Carter's expression grew thoughtful. Do you believe her motives are purely scientific? Khatri considered intelligence officer. Let's hope that scientific curiosity proves enough to bridge the wider divide, Carter said, though his tone suggested he harbored doubts. Those doubts seemed justified when, for days after the initial confrontation, long-range sensors detected multiple hyperspace distortions approaching the solar system. Imperial reinforcements, Sharma confirmed grimly as the bridge crew of the Audacity monitored the incoming signals. 20 vessels at minimum, including what appears to be a Dreadnought-class capital ship. Carter's expression remained calm despite the gravity of the situation. Alert all sister ships. Défensive Formation Alpha. And notify Earth Defense Command. Should we break off the scientific exchange with Captain Voss? Sharma asked. Carter considered this briefly. No, maintain the channel. It may prove valuable for intelligence, now more than ever. As the Imperial fleet emerged from hyperspace, the full scope of the threat became clear. 23 warships arranged in attack formation, centered around a massive dreadnought nearly 3 kilometers in length. The Indomitable moved to join this armada, taking position as a flanking vessel. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. From the Imperial Dreadnought. Carter straightened his uniform. On screen, the view screen activated to reveal a being unlike any the humans had encountered before. Where Admiral Valen had been humanoid despite his alien features, this creature was fundamentally different in structure. Multiple compound eyes arranged around a central sensory cluster, iridescent exoskeleton, and manipulator appendages that moved with unsettling precision. I am Grand Admiral Felix of the Imperial Dreadnought Inevitable, the being announced, its voice translated through a vocalization system. By authority of the Imperial Council, I have come to resolve the anomalous situation in this system. Carter maintained his composure despite the alien's intimidating appearance. Grand Admiral, I am Captain Reese Carter of the Earth Defense Force. We acknowledge your arrival, but remind you that you have entered sovereign Earth space. We request your intentions. The compound eyes shifted slightly, an alien expression impossible to interpret. Captain Carter, the Empire has monitored Earth for centuries. Your sudden technological advancement is unprecedented and requires explanation. The Imperial Council has authorized me to assess and resolve this situation through diplomatic or military means as circumstances dictate. We are open to diplomatic dialogue, Grand Admiral, Carter replied carefully. But we reject any presumption of Imperial authority over Earth or its territories. So Admiral Valen reported, Felix said, something like amusement coloring the synthetic voice. Your species displays remarkable confidence given its isolation and limited resources. Perhaps the Empire's assessment of our limitations requires updating, Carter suggested mildly. Perhaps, Felix acknowledged. I propose a direct meeting to discuss the situation. You may select 3 representatives to board my vessel as diplomatic envoys. Imperial safe conduct protocols will be observed. Carter hesitated. Boarding the Imperial flagship carried obvious risks, yet refusing would likely be interpreted as fear or hostility. We would be willing to meet, he replied, but on neutral ground. I propose a rendezvous at the midpoint between our current positions, with equal representation from both sides. Felix was silent for a moment. Acceptable, with conditions. Each side may bring 1 vessel as escort, weapons systems powered down. The diplomatic shuttle will be of Imperial design, as we have environmental systems capable of supporting multiple species. Agreed, with the condition that our representatives may bring atmospheric monitoring equipment for safety verification. Reasonable, Felix conceded. Coordinates and protocols will be transmitted. The meeting will commence in 6 hours. When the communication ended, Sharma turned to Carter with obvious concern. Captain, this could easily be a trap. Undoubtedly, Carter agreed. But we need to understand their intentions, and they clearly want information about our technological development. This meeting gives us the opportunity to assess their true position. Who will represent Earth? I'll consult with Defense Command, but I expect Director Rodriguez will want to lead our delegation personally. Dr. Catri's expertise will be essential as well. And the third, Carter smiled slightly. I believe they'll want someone with first-hand experience facing Imperial weapons fire. You, Sharma concluded, which leaves me in command of the Audacity. Temporarily, Carter confirmed, and with strict orders not to engage unless fired upon. This diplomatic opening, however fraught with risk, is too valuable to jeopardize. As preparations for the diplomatic meeting began, Carter received an unexpected communication through the private channel established with Captain Voss. Captain Carter, Ilara's voice came through with uncharacteristic urgency. I need to warn you about the upcoming meeting. I am listening, Carter replied, instantly alert. Grand Admiral Felix is known for strategic brilliance, but also for absolute loyalty to Imperial doctrine. Unlike Admiral Valen, who is primarily concerned with personal advancement, Felix genuinely believes in the Empire's manifest destiny to guide lesser species. Hardly an encouraging assessment, Captain Voss. It's not meant to be encouraging, but informative, Ilara replied. Felix will approach this meeting with predetermined objectives. To assess your technological capabilities, identify the source of your advancement, and determine whether Earth represents a genuine threat to Imperial interests. And if she determines we do? Alara's hesitation was answer enough. The Imperial Council has authorized her to resolve the situation by any means necessary. Then why agree to diplomatic talks at all? Because Felix is methodical. She'll exhaust diplomatic options first, not out of moral consideration, but strategic efficiency. War is resource-intensive. If Earth can be neutralized or incorporated through diplomacy, that's the preferred outcome. Carter processed this information carefully. You're taking an enormous risk by sharing this, Captain Voss. Yes, she acknowledged simply. Why? Another pause. Because our scientific exchange has shown me that humanity's approach to physics, to problem-solving itself, offers valuable alternatives to imperial orthodoxy. Alternatives that could benefit both civilizations if given the chance. You believe cooperation is possible? I believe it's necessary, Alara replied. The Empire has expanded through dominance for 10 millennia. It has grown stagnant in many ways, even as it accumulates power. Your civilization has achieved in 3 centuries of space development what took imperial science thousands of years, precisely because you weren't constrained by established doctrine. So, this is about scientific progress? It's about survival, Alara said bluntly. Earth's immediately. The Empire's eventually. Stagnation is death for any civilization, Captain Carter. Yours has demonstrated remarkable adaptability. Ours must learn to do the same, or eventually falter despite its size and power. Carter was silent for a moment, weighing her words. What would you suggest for the diplomatic meeting, given Felix's likely objectives? Transparency about your technological principles, but ambiguity about your capabilities and resources. Make clear that conflict would damage both sides significantly, while cooperation offers mutual benefits. And she hesitated again. Yes. Appeal to the Empire's self-interest, not its ethics. Felix respects pragmatism, not idealism. Understand, Carter said. Thank you, Captain Voss. Your insight may prove crucial. One more thing, Captain Carter, Alara added, her voice softer now. I will likely be present at this meeting as part of the Imperial delegation. For obvious reasons, we should show no familiarity. Of course. But won't your unauthorized communication be discovered? Eventually, perhaps, Alara acknowledged. But by then, I hope to have established the value of our scientific exchange through official channels. Success has a way of retroactively justifying unorthodox methods, even in the Empire. A risky calculation. One worth making, Alara replied firmly. For both our worlds. After the communication ended, Carter sat alone in his ready room, contemplating the complex web of interests, ambitions, and potential futures now converging. The coming diplomatic encounter would shape the relationship between Earth and the Galactic Empire for generations, perhaps centuries. And somewhere within that grand geopolitical chessboard, a single Imperial science officer had chosen to share crucial information across enemy lines, driven by a vision of cooperation that transcended millennia of Imperial doctrine. Whether that vision could survive contact with the harsh realities of interstellar politics remained to be seen. The diplomatic rendezvous point was a pocket of empty space halfway between the Imperial fleet and Earth's defensive perimeter. As agreed, a single vessel from each side approached the coordinates, a sleek Imperial shuttle with escort, and the Audacity representing Earth. Inside the Audacity's conference room, Earth's delegation made final preparations. Director Helena Rodriguez, a compact woman with steel-gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to authority, reviewed security protocols with military precision. Beside her, Dr. Katri organized complex equations on her data tablet, prepared explanations of Earth's gravitational technology that revealed principles without exposing critical details. Remember, Rodriguez addressed Carter, adjusting the formal diplomatic uniform that had been hastily created for this historic meeting, our primary objective is assessment. We need to understand their true intentions and capabilities before committing to any agreement. Agreed, Carter nodded. And our position regarding Earth's sovereignty remains absolute. Naturally, Rodriguez confirmed. We acknowledge the Empire's vastness, but not its authority over our system. Any diplomatic resolution must begin from that premise. The communications system chimed. Captain, Sharma's voice came through. The Imperial shuttle has arrived at the coordinates and is requesting our boarding party. Acknowledged, Carter replied. We're ready. The Earth delegation transferred to the Imperial shuttle via a temporary docking tube. The shuttle's interior was surprisingly austere, functional rather than ornate, with seating modified to accommodate human physiology. 2 Imperial officers awaited them. One was Admiral Valen, his expression carefully neutral despite the previous confrontation. The other was Captain Alara Voss, who maintained perfect professional distance as she greeted the human delegation. Welcome aboard, Valen said without warmth. We will transport you to the diplomatic vessel where Grand Admiral Felix awaits. The journey will take approximately 20 minutes. As the shuttle detached and began its journey toward the diplomatic meeting point, an uncomfortable silence fell over the compartment. Eventually, it was Alara who broke it. If I may, she addressed Dr. Katri, I've been analyzing the theoretical framework you shared regarding gravitational manipulation. The mathematical elegance is quite remarkable. Katri raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by this opening. Thank you, Captain Voss. I found your work on quantum field harmonics equally impressive. You've exchanged scientific data? Valen interrupted, his tone sharp. Basic theoretical principles only, Admiral, Alara replied calmly. As part of our intelligence assessment of Earth's technological capabilities. Valen's expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced, but he didn't press further. Science transcends political boundaries, Admiral, Dr. Katri observed mildly. The laws of physics are universal, even if our approaches to them differ. A convenient perspective for a civilization seeking to justify its unexpected advancement, Valen replied coldly. Director Rodriguez intervened smoothly. Our advancement is the natural result of human innovation, Admiral. Different paths often lead to different destinations, even when the starting point is similar. Indeed, Alara agreed, earning a sharp glance from Valen. The Empire's technological development has followed a specific evolutionary path optimized for energy manipulation. Earth appears to have prioritized mass and gravitational engineering instead, leaving certain questions unanswered, Valen pressed, such as how a Level 2 civilization developed such technology in isolation, without access to the accumulated knowledge of spacefaring species. Perhaps, Carter suggested, your classification system has limitations when applied to civilizations developing outside imperial influence. Convergent evolution occurs in technology as well as biology. The conversation continued in this vein throughout the journey. Probing questions met with careful responses, scientific curiosity occasionally bridging the diplomatic tension. Through it all, Carter observed the dynamics between Valen and Alara, noting the growing friction between military authority and scientific perspective. Finally, the shuttle docked with a much larger vessel, not one of the Imperial warships, but a specially designated diplomatic craft positioned precisely between the two fleets. We have arrived, Valen announced unnecessarily. Grand Admiral Felix awaits in the central chamber. Follow me. The diplomatic vessel's interior was more elaborate than the shuttle, with sweeping architectural elements and materials Carter couldn't identify. They were led through corridors staffed by various alien species, all wearing the distinct uniform of Imperial service, until they reached an imposing doorway that slid open at their approach. The chamber beyond was circular, dominated by a round table with seating accommodations for various physiologies. At the far side stood Grand Admiral Felix, even more imposing in person than via holographic projection. Flanking her were several other Imperial officials, including what appeared to be diplomatic and scientific advisors. Director Rodriguez, Captain Carter, Dr. Katri. Felix acknowledged each human with surprising accuracy. Welcome to neutral ground. Please be seated. As they took their positions, Carter noted that the seating arrangement placed the humans and Imperials directly opposite each other with Felix and Rodriguez at the focal points. Symbolically, at least, this suggested equality of status, a promising start. Let us dispense with unnecessary preamble. Felix began once all were settled. The Empire has monitored Earth for centuries as a developing civilization of potential interest. Your recent technological demonstration was unexpected and requires explanation. Rodriguez responded with equal directness. Earth has developed independently for its entire history, Grand Admiral. We have no obligation to explain our scientific advancement to any external power. Perhaps not legally, Felix conceded, compound eyes shifting in what might have been amusement. But practically, when a previously isolated world suddenly demonstrates military capabilities that neutralize imperial vessels, explanations become diplomatically prudent. What specifically concerns the Empire? Carter asked, following Alara's advice to focus on practical matters. 3 issues, Felix replied without hesitation. First, the origins of your gravitational technology, which does not follow expected developmental patterns. Second, your apparent manufacturing capacity, which exceeds our estimates for your civilization. Third, the possibility that Earth has established alliances with other spacefaring entities unknown to the Empire. Dr. Khatri addressed the first point. Our gravitational technology developed from theoretical work beginning nearly 2 centuries ago. Early physicists like Einstein established the fundamental relationship between mass and spacetime. Later generations built upon this foundation, eventually achieving practical applications. Without external influence, one of the imperial scientists asked skeptically. Without any but Earth's various scientific communities, Khatri confirmed. Different approaches to physics emerged in different Earth cultures, eventually cross-pollinating as global communication improved. And your manufacturing capacity? Felix prompted. Is entirely indigenous, Rodriguez stated. Orbital construction facilities, lunar mining operations, and asteroid resource extraction have accelerated dramatically over the past century. And allies? Felix asked directly. Earth stands alone, Rodriguez replied simply. Though we remain open to peaceful relations with any civilization, including the Empire. Felix made a gesture that seemed equivalent to thoughtful consideration. Your responses are consistent, but leave questions unanswered, particularly regarding the rapid advancement from primitive chemical propulsion to gravitational manipulation within a single century. With respect, Grand Admiral, Carter interjected, the Empire's developmental models are based on civilizations that evolved within imperial influence or observation. Earth's isolated development allowed for innovation paths unbounded by external paradigms. An interesting theory, Felix acknowledged, one that Captain Voss has also proposed in her analysis. All eyes turned briefly to Alara, who maintained professional composure despite the sudden scrutiny. The scientific principles are sound, she confirmed. Different initial approaches to physics could lead to vastly different technological outcomes, even with similar resource limitations. And if we accept this explanation, Felix continued, we return to practical considerations. Earth has demonstrated military capability that poses potential concern to imperial interests. How do you propose we resolve this situation? Rodriguez leaned forward slightly. Through mutual recognition and respect, Grand Admiral. Earth acknowledges the Empire's dominion over its existing territories. In return, we ask only for recognition of Earth's sovereignty over our own system and colonies. Simple recognition? Felix's tone suggested skepticism. No technological exchange? No trade agreements? No defensive pacts? Those could follow once basic diplomatic relations are established, Rodriguez clarified. But sovereignty recognition must come first, as the foundation for any further relationship. Felix was silent for a moment, compound eyes shifting between the human delegates. Your position is clear, Director Rodriguez. Now allow me to clarify the Empire's perspective. The Grand Admiral activated a holographic display showing the galaxy, with Imperial territory highlighted in red, a vast swath covering thousands of star systems. The Empire has brought stability, technological advancement, and protection to countless worlds over 10 millennia. Many of these were once isolated civilizations like Earth, which now prosper as imperial members. This expansion is not merely conquest. It is the natural progression of civilization toward unity and order. A perspective not universally shared, Carter noted diplomatically. Evidently, Felix acknowledged without offense. Yet it remains the dominant paradigm across known space. Earth's emergence as an independent military power, however limited in scope, introduces uncertainty into a stable region. This is the Empire's primary concern. And how would you propose addressing this concern? Rodriguez asked carefully. Integration, Felix replied simply. Not conquest or subjugation, but structured incorporation into the imperial sphere. Earth would maintain internal autonomy while accepting certain obligations regarding defense, trade, and technological development. Becoming a protectorate rather than a sovereign power, Rodriguez translated. Initially, Felix confirmed, with potential for increased status as integration progresses. And if Earth declines this offer? Carter asked quietly. Felix's alien features revealed nothing, but her voice carried unmistakable weight. Then the Empire must consider Earth an unpredictable variable in regional stability. Strategic doctrine would necessitate containment measures to limit potential disruption. Military action, Rodriguez stated flatly. If necessary, Felix acknowledged, though we both understand the cost such action would impose on both sides. The implication was clear. Earth might bloody the Empire severely with its gravitational technology, but against thousands of worlds with limitless resources, the outcome was inevitable. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber as the fundamental impasse became clear. The Empire would not accept a fully independent Earth with military capabilities that challenged imperial dominance. Earth would not surrender its hard-won sovereignty after finally achieving the means to defend it. It was Dr. Katri who broke the silence. Grand Admiral, if I may offer a scientific perspective on this diplomatic challenge? Felix gestured permission. Proceed, Doctor. The history of scientific advancement shows that cross-pollination of different approaches often yields greater progress than either path alone, Katri began. Our initial exchanges with Captain Voss have demonstrated the potential value of combining Earth's gravitational engineering with Imperial quantum field technology. She activated her own holographic display, showing theoretical equations merging both approaches. This preliminary work suggests possibilities neither civilization has yet explored. Propulsion systems of unprecedented efficiency. Communication methods immune to natural interference. Perhaps even defensive applications beneficial to both sides. Carter observed Felix's reaction carefully, noting the subtle shifts in her compound eyes that suggested genuine interest. You propose scientific collaboration as an alternative to political integration? Felix asked. I propose that mutual benefit might provide a more stable foundation for relations than forced incorporation, Katri replied carefully. Earth sovereignty remains essential to our position, but that need not preclude extensive cooperation in areas of shared interest. Alara spoke up, her voice measured but confident. Grand Admiral, my analysis of Earth's technological approach suggests they've solved problems imperial science has struggled with for centuries, precisely because they developed in isolation from our established paradigms. There is genuine scientific value in preserving their independent perspective. Admiral Vallon shifted uncomfortably at this intervention, but remained silent as Felix considered the proposal. An interesting alternative, the Grand Admiral finally said. One that merits further exploration. I propose a temporary arrangement, a formal recognition of Earth's current territorial boundaries, combined with the establishment of a joint scientific commission to explore technological cooperation. This would allow time to assess whether such collaboration could serve as a foundation for stable relations. Rodriguez glanced at Carter, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. We would be amenable to such an arrangement, provided it explicitly acknowledges Earth's sovereign status. Provisional sovereignty, Felix countered. Subject to review as our relationship develops. Full sovereignty, Rodriguez insisted, with ongoing diplomatic dialogue regarding shared interests and concerns. The negotiation continued for hours, delving into specifics of territorial boundaries, scientific exchange protocols, and security guarantees. Throughout, Carter observed Alara's subtle but consistent advocacy for cooperation over confrontation, often finding scientific justification for diplomatic compromises. Finally, as both delegations grew weary, the outlines of an agreement emerged. The North Star Accord, named after the star's historical significance as a navigation point for Earth's early explorers. Its key provisions included recognition of Earth's sovereignty over the solar system and its existing colonies, establishment of a joint technology commission with equal representation, non-aggression commitments from both sides, with protocols for dispute resolution, controlled exchange of scientific knowledge in specified fields, regular diplomatic consultations on matters of mutual concern. As the formal language was being finalized, Grand Admiral Felix requested a brief private conversation with Director Rodriguez. The others withdrew to an adjacent chamber, leaving Captain Carter momentarily alone with Alara as the various advisors engaged in separate discussions. This outcome was far from certain, Carter said quietly, maintaining appropriate diplomatic distance. It still isn't, Alara replied, her voice equally low. The Imperial Council may reject Felix's recommendation. Admiral Valen certainly opposes it. Yet you advocated for it consistently, at considerable personal risk. Alara's expression remained professionally neutral, but her eyes conveyed deeper meaning. Some principles transcend immediate loyalties, Captain. The pursuit of knowledge is one. The rejection of unnecessary conflict is another. Will there be consequences for you? Carter asked directly. Almost certainly, Alara acknowledged. But perhaps also opportunities. The Joint Technology Commission will require Imperial scientists with understanding of both approaches. Carter nodded slightly. Earth would welcome your participation. As would I, Alara replied, though Admiral Valen might have other ideas. Their conversation was interrupted as the others returned, signaling that the private discussion between Rodriguez and Felix had concluded. The Grand Admiral's expression was unreadable as ever, but Director Rodriguez carried herself with new confidence. The North Star Accord is ready for provisional signature, Felix announced. Final ratification will require approval from my government, as I'm sure it will from yours. Of course, Rodriguez agreed. But this represents significant progress towards stable relations. As the formal signing proceeded, Carter caught a glimpse of Admiral Valen's expression, cold calculation tinged with apparent disapproval. Whatever Valen's ambitions had been upon arriving in the solar system, they clearly hadn't included peaceful coexistence with a sovereign Earth. When the ceremony concluded and the delegations prepared to return to their respective vessels, Grand Admiral Felix approached Carter directly. Captain Carter, her synthetic voice carried an undertone he couldn't quite interpret. Your vessel's performance against Admiral Valen's squadron was instructive. One wonders what might have transpired had you faced a less restrained opponent. Let's hope we never have reason to find out, Grand Admiral, Carter replied carefully. Indeed, Felix's compound eyes shifted in what might have been amusement. Though I suspect Earth has more strategic depth than you've revealed today. The audacity may be merely the visible tip of a more extensive defensive capability. It wasn't a question, and Carter didn't treat it as one. The North Star Accord serves both our interests, Grand Admiral. Peace through strength and mutual respect has proven effective throughout human history. A philosophy not entirely alien to imperial thinking, Felix acknowledged, though usually applied to equals rather than emerging powers. Perhaps that distinction is becoming less relevant, Carter suggested. Perhaps, Felix agreed. Time will tell. Until our next meeting, Captain Carter. As the Earth delegation departed aboard the shuttle, Director Rodriguez finally allowed herself a small smile. Well played, Captain. Though we're far from secure yet. Agreed, Carter nodded. The Empire strikes me as having many factions with different agendas. Grand Admiral Felix may support this accord, but Admiral Valen clearly has reservations. And Captain Voss? Rodriguez asked, giving Carter a knowing look. Her advocacy for scientific cooperation seemed quite passionate. Carter maintained a neutral expression. She appears to be a scientist first, Imperial officer second. That perspective proved valuable today. Indeed, Rodriguez mused. One wonders how many others like her exist within the Empire's vast structure. Potential allies for a more cooperative future. Or at least voices for moderation, Carter suggested, which may prove crucial as we implement this agreement. Dr. Catry, who had been reviewing the final text of the accord, looked up with measured optimism. The Joint Technology Commission has genuine potential, assuming good faith on both sides. The theoretical work alone could advance both our civilizations significantly. While giving us time to strengthen our defenses, Rodriguez added pragmatically. This accord buys us years, perhaps decades, to prepare for less favorable scenarios. As the shuttle docked with the Audacity, Carter found himself contemplating the future that now stretched before them. Earth had emerged from isolation into a galaxy dominated by an ancient empire. An empire that had, for the moment at least, chosen cooperation over conquest. Yet beneath the diplomatic language and scientific opportunities lay fundamental questions still unanswered. Could a young, singular civilization maintain true independence alongside a galactic power? Would the Empire's millennia-old expansion ultimately engulf Earth despite this temporary accommodation? And could individuals like Ilara Voss, who saw value in diversity of thought and approach, influence the Empire's rigid structures toward genuine coexistence? These questions would shape the decades to come as Earth and Empire navigated their unprecedented relationship. For now, however, humanity had achieved something remarkable. Recognition as equals by a power that had dominated known space for 10,000 years. It was Carter reflected as the Audacity broke orbit to return to Earth, both an ending and a beginning. The end of humanity's isolation, and the beginning of its role as a distinctive voice in the broader galactic community. Whatever challenges lay ahead, that achievement would endure. Back on Earth, 6 months after the signing of the North Star Accord, the Joint Technology Commission held its inaugural session in the newly constructed Galileo Center for Interstellar Cooperation. Representatives from both civilizations gathered to begin the careful, structured exchange of scientific knowledge that formed the backbone of the fragile peace. Captain Rhys Carter, now promoted to admiral and serving as Earth's military liaison to the Commission, stood at the observation window overlooking the main research floor. Below, human and Imperial scientists worked side by side, exploring the possibilities created by merging their divergent approaches to physics and engineering. Quite a sight, isn't it? A familiar voice observed from beside him. Carter turned to find Ilara Voss, now bearing the title of Chief Scientific Liaison rather than Imperial Captain. Her reassignment had come as a surprise to many, though perhaps not to those who had witnessed her advocacy during the diplomatic negotiations. Indeed it is, Carter agreed, though not one I expected to see when we first faced each other across weapons range. Nor I, Ilara acknowledged. The Empire rarely changes course once set. Yet here we are, Carter echoed, watching as Dr. Catry explained a complex gravitational equation to an Imperial physicist. Though I understand not everyone in the Empire approves of this arrangement. An understatement, Ilara said dryly. Admiral Valen has been particularly vocal in his opposition. He believes the accord grants Earth too much autonomy and receives too little in return. And what does Grand Admiral Felix believe? Ilara considered this carefully. That the scientific value of this exchange outweighs the political complications, at least for now. Felix is ancient, even by Imperial standards. She has seen civilizations rise and fall. I believe she recognizes that the Empire's approach must evolve if it is to endure another 10 millennia. Evolution over stagnation, Carter mused. Not a perspective I expected from the Empire's military leadership. The most effective leaders anticipate change rather than merely reacting to it, Ilera replied. Felix understands that Earth represents both challenge and opportunity. The challenge to imperial hegemony is obvious. The opportunity to inject new thinking into a system grown complacent with its own success is more subtle. Carter studied her for a moment. You've given this considerable thought. I've had to justify my position repeatedly since accepting this assignment, Ilera admitted, both to imperial authorities and to myself. Below them, the research floor buzzed with activity as human and imperial scientists worked together, occasionally breaking into animated discussions as new ideas emerged from their collaboration. Any regrets? Carter asked quietly. Ilera watched a young imperial researcher excitedly explaining something to a human colleague, their differences in physiology forgotten in the shared language of mathematics and physics. None, she said firmly, though the path forward remains uncertain. As all worthwhile paths must be, Carter replied. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Catry, who approached with barely contained excitement. Admiral Carter, Captain Voss, she greeted them. You need to see this. The combined team has just achieved a breakthrough in quantum gravitational field theory that neither side could have reached independently. As they followed her to the research floor, Carter reflected on the improbable journey that had brought them to this point. From confrontation to cooperation, from mutual suspicion to cautious partnership, all because a single imperial vessel had detected an anomalous signal from a supposedly primitive world. The universe, it seemed, had a peculiar sense of humor. Earth had developed in isolation, taking a different technological path than the Empire had ever explored. That difference, once a potential catalyst for conflict, now formed the foundation for unprecedented collaboration. Do you think it will last? He asked Ilera as they watched the scientists at work. Nothing lasts forever, she replied pragmatically. But ideas, once shared, cannot be unlearned. Whatever political challenges lie ahead, the knowledge exchange has already begun to transform both our civilizations. Carter nodded, understanding the deeper implication. Even if the peace proved temporary, the cross-pollination of ideas would continue to shape both human and imperial development for centuries to come. To new beginnings, then, he said, and unexpected paths, Ilera agreed. Below them, human and imperial scientists continued their work, oblivious to the broader significance of their collaboration. Two technological traditions, developed in isolation across vast distances of space and time, were finally converging, creating possibilities neither civilization had imagined alone. It was, Carter reflected, both an ending and a beginning. The end of Earth's solitary journey among the stars, and the beginning of something new. A future shaped not by conquest or subjugation, but by the recognition that diversity of thought and approach strengthen the whole. Whether this fragile peace would endure remained to be seen. The Empire spanned thousands of worlds, its traditions and hierarchies deeply entrenched after 10 millennia of expansion. Earth was just one world, newly emerged onto the galactic stage. Yet as he watched the scientists below, human and alien working side by side, united by curiosity and the universal language of mathematics, Carter found reason for hope. Not the naive optimism of guaranteed success, but the grounded hope that came from seeing seemingly insurmountable differences bridged through shared purpose. Perhaps that was enough. Not the certainty of permanent peace, but the possibility of a better path forward than either side had initially imagined. For now, that possibility was taking shape in the Galileo Center as the Joint Technology Commission began its work. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own opportunities. But today, at least, the improbable had become reality. The Empire had freaked out, as the humans might say colloquially, upon discovering that primitive Earth had developed warships that could challenge imperial dominance. That shock had nearly led to conflict, but had instead opened the door to cooperation. As Dr. Catry led them toward the breakthrough her team had achieved, Carter caught Ilera's eye and saw his own cautious optimism reflected there. Whatever the future held, This moment, this bridging of vastly different worlds, was something to be valued. The galaxy, it seemed, had room for more than one path to the stars. 6 months later, Admiral Cor Valen stood before the Imperial Strategic Council, his posture rigid with barely contained frustration. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring architecture designed to emphasize the Empire's magnificence and permanence, seemed almost to mock his current predicament. The human vessels now number 23, he reported, highlighting holographic representations of Earth's expanded fleet, all equipped with the gravitational lens technology that proved effective against our standard weapons. In addition, they've established defensive platforms throughout their system, creating a multi-layered security perimeter. Grand Admiral Felix, presiding over the council from her elevated position, regarded Valen with compound eyes that revealed nothing of her thoughts. All within the parameters established by the North Star Accord, she observed neutrally. Technical compliance, perhaps, Valen countered, but the rapid expansion of their military capability clearly demonstrates aggressive intent. Or simply prudence, suggested Council Maritax, the civilian representative for diplomatic affairs. Earth remains a single system facing an empire of thousands. Their defensive posture appears proportionate to that reality. Valen's skin darkened with barely suppressed emotion. Counselor, with respect, you lack military perspective. These defensive capabilities could rapidly be converted to offensive operations. The humans are positioning themselves as a regional power, not merely securing their borders. If I may, Admiral, Elara Voss interjected from her position among the scientific advisors. Earth's military development has been accompanied by significant scientific cooperation through the Joint Technology Commission. Their contributions to quantum gravitational field theory have already yielded valuable applications for Imperial research. Valen fixed Elara with a cold stare. Captain Voss's perspective is compromised by her extended immersion in human culture. Her objectivity regarding Earth's intentions is questionable at best. Yet her scientific assessments have proven consistently accurate, Felix noted. The Commission's work has advanced Imperial understanding in several key areas. At what cost? Valen demanded. We've legitimized a potential rival power. Worse, we've provided them access to Imperial scientific knowledge that may further accelerate their development. The exchange has been reciprocal, Elara pointed out. The humans have shared their gravitational engineering principles as agreed. Imperial scientists are already developing applications based on these insights. Applications that remain years from practical implementation, Valen countered. Meanwhile, Earth consolidates its position and potentially establishes contact with other non-Imperial worlds. The strategic implications are clear. Felix raised an appendage, silencing the debate. Admiral Valen's concerns merit consideration. However, the current policy of engagement has yielded tangible benefits with manageable risks. Unless conditions change significantly, the North Star Accord will remain in effect. As the Council session adjourned, Valen approached Elara in a quiet corridor outside the chamber. You've chosen your side quite definitively, Captain Voss, he said, his voice low but intense. I wonder if you still remember your oath to the Empire. Elara met his gaze steadily. My oath was to serve the Empire's interests through scientific advancement. The Joint Commission fulfills that purpose more effectively than conflict ever could. Pretty words to mask simple betrayal, Valen replied. Make no mistake, the humans are playing a longer game than you realize. They've manipulated your scientific curiosity into advocacy for a dangerous policy. Or perhaps, Elara suggested quietly, you've allowed your military perspective to blind you to diplomatic and scientific opportunities. Not every emerging civilization needs to be conquered or contained, Admiral. Valen's expression hardened. Naive idealism. The Empire has endured for 10 millennia through strength and strategic clarity, not misguided cooperation with potential rivals. The Empire has endured through adaptation, Elara corrected. When necessary, it has evolved its approach to changing circumstances. Earth represents new circumstances, Admiral. Perhaps evolution is once again required. Be careful, Captain, Valen warned. Your position remains precarious. When, not if, the humans reveal their true ambitions, your advocates on the council will quickly distance themselves from your recommendations. As he stalked away, Alara remained motionless, considering his words. Valen wasn't entirely wrong. Her position was indeed precarious. She had staked her career and reputation on the belief that cooperation with Earth served the Empire's long-term interests better than conflict. If that assessment proved incorrect, the consequences would be severe, both professionally and personally. Yet as she recalled the progress being made at the Joint Commission, the genuine breakthroughs emerging from the collaboration between human and Imperial scientists, she found her conviction unshaken. The Empire had indeed survived for 10 millennia, but not without change. Its approaches, policies, and even fundamental structures had evolved over that vast span of time. The notion that its current form represented some perfect, immutable endpoint was historically inaccurate. Evolution or stagnation. Adaptation or entropy. These are the true choices facing the Empire, whether Valen and his allies recognized it or not. Alara made her way to her private laboratory, where a secure communication channel awaited. Admiral Carter had requested an update on Imperial perspectives regarding the Accord's implementation. Despite the political sensitivities, maintaining this dialogue had proven essential to navigating the complex dynamics between Earth and Empire. As she prepared her report, carefully balancing transparency with discretion, Alara found herself reflecting on the extraordinary journey of the past year. From first contact to confrontation, from scientific exchange to formal diplomatic relations, Earth had transformed from a Level 2 curiosity to a recognized sovereign power with remarkable speed. And in that transformation, perhaps, lay a model for the Empire's own evolution. Not a retreat from greatness, but an expansion of possibility. Not weakness, but a different kind of strength. Time would tell whether this vision would prevail over the militaristic certainties championed by Valen and his allies. Until then, Alara would continue her work, bridging worlds through the universal language of science. It was, she reflected, both an ending and a beginning. The end of isolation, Earth from the galactic community, and her own from perspectives beyond Imperial doctrine. And the beginning of something new, something unpredictable, something potentially transformative. For both civilizations, the journey had only just begun. From the observation deck of the Audacity, Captain Reese Carter, now Admiral Carter, gazed at the sprawling shipyards orbiting Mars. Construction drones swarmed around the skeletal frames of new vessels, their gravitational engines already taking shape in the central sections. The Defiance and Resilience will be operational within 3 months, reported Fleet Commander Sharma, who had once served as his executive officer. That will bring our total fleet to 25 capital ships, with another 15 under construction. Carter nodded, satisfaction mingled with caution. And the defensive platforms? The Jupiter and Saturn perimeter networks are fully operational. Neptune's will be completed by year's end. The outer system early warning system is already functioning at 90% capacity. Good, Carter said simply. We're on schedule. They watched in silence as a massive gravitational lens array was carefully maneuvered into position on one of the nearly completed vessels. The technology that had once saved a single ship from Imperial weapons fire was now being systematically deployed throughout Earth's defensive network. Do you think it will be enough? Sharma asked quietly. Carter considered the question carefully. Against a determined Imperial assault? No, not yet. But enough to make any such action prohibitively costly? I believe so. And the Accord? Will hold. For now, Carter replied. Grand Admiral Felix seems genuinely committed to the scientific exchange, and the benefits have been substantial for both sides. But there are factions within the Empire, Admiral Valen chief among them, who view our relationship very differently. Sharma frowned slightly. Captain Vasa's latest communication mentioned increasing pressure from military hardliners. Predictable, Carter acknowledged. The empire has expanded through dominance for millennia. The notion of peaceful coexistence with an independent power challenges deeply held doctrines. Yet they agreed to the accord. Out of pragmatism, not conviction, Carter reminded her. Our technological approach surprised them, created uncertainty about the potential costs of conflict. That uncertainty bought us time we're using well. He gestured toward the bustling shipyards and the planet beyond, where Earth's unified government was directing unprecedented resources toward space defense and development. But make no mistake, he continued soberly, the fundamental tension remains unresolved. The Empire believes in its manifest destiny to guide lesser civilizations. Our insistence on true independence runs counter to their most basic assumptions about how the galaxy should be ordered. So that the peace is temporary? Carter's expression remained measured. Peace is always temporary, Commander. The question is whether we can extend it long enough for deeper changes to take root. Changes in perspective, in understanding. Carter's gaze returned to the shipyards. The Joint Commission isn't just about technology exchange. It's about demonstrating that different civilizations can collaborate as equals to mutual benefit. That the Empire's traditional approach of dominance and assimilation isn't the only viable path forward. A cultural shift, not just a political one, Sharma observed. Exactly, Carter agreed. And cultural shifts take time, generations potentially. Our job is to maintain Earth's security and sovereignty long enough for those shifts to have a chance. The conversation was interrupted by a priority communication alert. Admiral, we're receiving an encrypted transmission from Captain Voss. Priority Alpha. Carter straightened immediately. Alara rarely used the highest security protocol for their communications. Put it through to my private terminal. Moments later, alone in his ready room, Carter activated the secure channel. Alara's face appeared, her expression tense. Admiral, we have a situation, she began without preamble. Imperial long-range sensors have detected unusual activity in the Proxima Centauri system. Admiral Valen is using this as evidence that Earth is expanding militarily beyond its recognized territory, in violation of the Accord. Carter frowned. We have a research outpost at Proxima, nothing more. Certainly no military installations. I am aware, Alara replied. But the energy signatures being detected bear similarities to your gravitational technology. Valen is arguing that Earth is establishing forward military positions in preparation for expansion. That's absurd, Carter objected. The outpost has been there for decades, long before our first contact with the Empire. Its purpose is purely scientific. Nevertheless, Valen has secured authorization for a verification mission to investigate. He'll be leading it, personally, with 3 cruisers and support vessels. Carter's expression darkened. That's a concerning level of firepower for a simple verification. Indeed, Alara agreed grimly. I believe Valen is deliberately seeking confrontation. If he can provoke an incident, he could undermine the Accord and justify military action against Earth. When does this mission depart? 48 hours. I've been assigned as scientific liaison, ostensibly to assess any technological installations discovered. Carter considered this information carefully. Can you delay the mission? Not without revealing my concerns, which would compromise my position here, Alara replied. But I can ensure that Grand Admiral Thelix receives complete and accurate information throughout. That helps, but isn't enough, Carter decided. We need to remove any potential for misunderstanding at Proxima. I'll send immediate instructions to the research outpost to power down all non-essential systems during the Imperial inspection. And I'll dispatch the Audacity to observe at a respectful distance to ensure transparent communications. A reasonable precaution, Alara acknowledged. But be aware that Valen may interpret any Earth military presence as confirmation of his suspicions. Then we'll maintain position outside the Proxima system until invited to approach, Carter determined. The important thing is ensuring that this verification doesn't escalate into something more dangerous. Alara nodded gravely. I should go. Communications may be monitored more closely now that the mission has been authorized. Understood. And Captain Voss, thank you for the warning. Her expression softened briefly. The pursuit of truth isn't limited to scientific inquiry, Admiral. I'll report again when possible. After the communication ended, Carter sat motionless for several minutes, weighing implications and options. Then he activated the ship's secure channel. Commander Sharma, set course for Proxima Centauri. Maximum speed, but maintain stealth protocols. And contact Earth Command immediately. We have a situation developing. The tension that had simmered beneath the North Star Accord was finally coming to a head. Admiral Valen had found his pretext for challenging the fragile peace between Earth and Empire. What happened next would determine whether that peace had a future at all. The Imperial Verification Flotilla emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, sensors immediately scanning for the anomalous energy signatures that had justified their mission. Admiral Valen stood on the command deck of the Indomitable, his expression revealing nothing of the anticipation he felt. Initial scans, Captain Voss, he inquired, glancing toward Alara at the science station. Alara studied the incoming data carefully. Confirmed presence of an Earth outpost on the fourth planet, Admiral. Small installation, approximately 300 personnel according to life sign readings. Minimal power emissions currently detected. Minimal. Valen seized on the qualifier. Explain. The installation appears to be operating on reduced power, Alara clarified. Basic life support and essential systems only. Valen's eyes narrowed. How convenient. They were warned of our approach. Or they routinely conserve power given their distance from Earth support, Alara suggested mildly. The outpost's small fusion reactor would be a limited resource. We shall see, Valen replied skeptically. Set course for the fourth planet. Full sensor sweep as we approach. I want every energy emission, every communication signal, every particle of dust analyzed. As the Imperial vessels moved deeper into the system, Alara maintained her professional demeanor despite growing concern. Valen was clearly determined to find evidence of militarization, whether it existed or not. Her presence as scientific liaison was intended to provide objective analysis, but she harbored no illusions about her ability to influence the Admiral's conclusions if he was determined to justify confrontation. Admiral, the sensor officer reported, we're detecting a vessel at the outer edge of the system. Earth configuration, but power down and maintaining position. Valen's expression tightened. Identification. Signal identifies it as the Audacity, Admiral. A cold smile touched Valen's lips. The same vessel from our first encounter. How fitting. Communications. Hail them immediately. When the channel opened, Admiral Carter's face appeared on the main view screen. His expression was composed, professional. Admiral Valen, he acknowledged. On behalf of Earth, I extend greetings and acknowledge your verification mission under the protocols established by the North Star Accord. Admiral Carter, Valen replied with artificial courtesy. Your presence here is... Ooh.